Okay, Chapter 5, Lesson 2, Estimating Sums and Differences. It says one way to estimate is to use rounding. If you round numbers to a lesser place value, you are likely to get an estimate that is closer to the exact answer. So let's look at example 1. Hadassah used a digital thermometer to find the morning temperature and afternoon temperature. She found the morning temperature was 31.3 degrees Fahrenheit and the afternoon temperature was 37.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Estimate the difference in average temperatures. So, I'm going to walk through this again. Okay? It says one way is to round to the nearest 10. So we're going to round 37.6 to the nearest 10. So we underlined the 10. Let's draw an arrow to the ones. Okay? And we can ask ourselves, is this closer to 37, or is it closer to 30, or is it closer to 40? Well, if we put 30 on a number line and we put 40 on a number line, we can see that we have 37, which is going to be way over here. Okay? We can also say our poem, 5 or more, raise the score. 7 is clearly 5 or more, so we raise it to 40 and it becomes 40. All right? The same with here. If we're going to round to the nearest 10, okay, our nearest 10 would be 30 or it would be 40. So where does 31 fall on the number line? Well, it's clearly closer to the 30. So we would, in this instance, round down to 30. We could also draw our arrow to the right to the ones place value and say our poem, 5 or more, raise the score. 4 or less, this is 4 or less, so we let the 3 less, we leave it alone, so it becomes a 30. And then lastly, we subtract. 40 minus 30 is 10. We were talking about 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so let's look over here. It says another way is to round to the nearest 1. So in this instance, we're going to underline the ones place value, and we're going to use the tenths to help us decide. So, we're going to say our poem, 5 or more, raise the score. Well, 6 is 5 or more. That means we're going to raise the 7 to an 8, and that number rounds up to 38. In this instance, we're going to round 31.3. We're going to underline the ones because they said we're rounding to the nearest ones. We're going to draw our arrow. We're going to say our poem, 5 or more, raise the score. Well, 3 is not 5 or more, so we're not raising the score. We're letting it rest, so it just becomes 31. And then lastly, we're going to subtract because in the story problem, they asked us to estimate the difference in average temperatures. So 38 minus 31 leaves us with 7 degrees Fahrenheit. So the difference is about 10 degrees Fahrenheit or about 7 degrees. The actual difference is 6.3. So rounding to the nearest ones gave us the more accurate estimate. So this one was slightly more accurate than our first way. Okay, let's look at example 2. They're asking us to estimate 5.26 plus 1.93 by rounding to the nearest 1. We have to identify the place value that we're going to round to. So we're going to underline the 1, draw an arrow to the digit at the right, and say our poem. 5 or more, raise the score. 4 or less, let it rest. This 2 is clearly 4 or less. So we don't change the 5, we let it rest, and it stays the same. All right, in this instance, we're going to underline the 1, draw an arrow to the 9. It's clearly 5 or more, so we're going to raise that to a 2. Okay, and again, they wanted us to estimate the addition of these two numbers. So this number rounded up to 5, this number rounded down to an even 5, this number rounded up to an even 2. 5 plus 2 is 7. So the sum is about 7. Okay? There we go.